Okay. Well, praise the Lord. What a time, Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Well, it's been, I don't even know. I tried to count the years, but when I add up the years at Eddie and then I add up the years at Spencer, it's like a buttload of years.
I know.
That we've known each other.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And it's almost like, when I went to Eddie, it was great. It was great. When you're young, you think you're a little bit older because you're going to middle school now, and then you kind of like get a vibe of who the staff is, right? I knew you was important because you weren't a teacher. So I knew, not that teachers aren't important, but I knew you was in the main office. So I actually thought you were principal when I first met you.
Right.
But when I first met you, I said, she got a vibe. Like
you never know what kids think.
And then I realized your last name was Sanchez. I said, you know what? She might be related. She might be related. And I think ever since then, I just always felt this this comfortability with you. Like I could always come to you and talk to you. Do you remember? I had done something. I think I had said something to you. And I felt like it was mean or something like that.
Yeah.
And I came.
We
to
had
your
a
office.
moment.
We did. and
I
was in
that
high
you
school.
remember that.
Yep, I was in high school.
I love that you
and I came to your office.
You did.
And I said, Dr. Sanchez, I'm really sorry.
You did.
I was going through something, and you said, don't worry about it, Matthew. I forgive you.
I think I
love you.
said sorry too because I didn't handle it right.
You did say
either.
sorry, and you know what else? You made me feel so
my goodness.
loved because you brought up your son and you said that I was like a son to you, and you had never said that to me, and I always felt like I was. But you said you're like a son to me, so I get it. And we're gonna have moments where we disagree. I forget what it was.
I remember now.
We're gonna have moments where we disagree,
remember that.
and I was like, yeah, and I think we both cried.
I think we did too,
We both
Matthew.
cried.
That's beautiful that you remember that.
Those are the kind of moments you never want to end. Like I could have sat there and talked with you, and I think I came to your office multiple times after that. You know how you open the door for somebody to be open, honest?
Yes.
And I feel like I could. But it was just that moment that just opened the door for so many other conversations.
It did. I remember that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So
it's almost like it was yesterday now that you mentioned it.
Exactly. So the people know now that we know each other. We've known each other a long time.
Yeah, we have.
And
since middle. How old are you now?
I'm 28.
Help me.
I'm 28.
Wow, 28.
So when you met me, I was younger than, I had to be younger than 16 or something like that.
You had
Probably
to be like
15.
11 or 12.
Probably.
Like middle school.
Had to be.
While you were moonwalking. Michael Jackson.
I had to be. I know. Had to be. So like.
Do you remember when you used to do your performance and all the kids in the gym would be watching and screaming and you had your little hat and you were moonwalking, and then when after the performance was over, you gather all your things and you'd walk out the front door and your mom would open the back door and you would get in like Michael Jackson and then you all would drive.
Yeah, those were the days. And you know what? Y'all supported me. Y'all didn't tell me I was crazy.
You were awesome.
Y'all supported me.
There was standing room only when you did Michael Jackson.
Okay, now I don't remember that though.
Oh, I do.
Well, I just know I had a passion to dance.
Yeah.
To be like Michael Jackson. And by the time this come out, the people have seen the preview for the movie.
Okay.
They don't see the movie?
No, what movie?
Oh, it's a Michael Jackson movie. You got to go see it.
I think I have heard that.
Yeah, it's come out in April next year.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big interest.
Ooh,
I would love
you got
to
go see it. I'm telling you.
Wow. Did you double for him?
Let me tell you. No, I wish I had. But I am going to see that movie, and I'm dressing up. I'm not going to dress like, Michael, but I'm just going to get me a shirt and all that.
Yes.
So the people know, they know now that we've known each other a long time, but who are you and what do you do for the people who don't know?
Okay, so accumulation of a lot of different people in one, I guess. I'm a counseling psychologist. I have been in mental health for about 30 years. I started mental health kind of simultaneously with being a guidance counselor and being a mental health therapist. Mm-hmm. I worked with Department of Family and Children's Services, contracted for quite a few years, going into homes, working with children of abuse and neglect, working with reunification of families, And then, with the school system, it's like I started going so deep into mental health, but I couldn't pick between the school district and the mental health aspect because it was like choosing a child over another child. I loved them both. So for the last 30 years, until I retired from the school system about 4 years ago, I did them both. So I would go to school and I'd work as a counselor, and then I would leave and go into the hills of Fort Mitchell and Chambers County and different places in Alabama, and I would do homestead counseling in homes. And so
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I did that for a long
I
time.
did that. How long was that? How long did you do that?
I did that for almost 20 years simultaneously with both. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So now you have your own practice, though.
Right. In about 2014, I went ahead and got my own practice. I'd finished my doctorate in counseling, and then I got my licensure, and so then I got my own private practice. And so now I work with custody court cases, which are sometimes very wearing on you. So it's not necessarily my favorite, but there's such a need for it. But I work with veterans now, a lot of veterans with PTSD and anxiety, and help them with their claims. And I love working with veterans.
Really?
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Really? What's something that's interesting that you didn't know would be interesting about veterans and their mental health?
I think that years ago, and I date myself, I lived in Germany. I was married to a military person, and I back then saw a lot of the Vietnam veterans. They were coming back from Vietnam. I was in Germany, and people would say, "There goes a Vietnam veteran," and there was this mystique and mysteriousness about it, because of everything they'd been through. And I was in social work then, and I was like, I want to help veterans. I want to know what these guys have been through. I want to know their story.
Yeah.
And then years later, fast forward, now I am working with veterans, and I am even working with some Vietnam veterans, that are coming through. But I think the most interesting thing about them is that they give so much of their livelihood and they sacrifice their family time and they have extraordinary demands on their body and their mind and their soul and their spirit. And I don't know if people really realize what they go through. And I feel privileged to sit in a room with them and hear their stories and find ways to help them through their trauma.
Sure. What about the court cases? What's so interesting that you didn't think?
Well, I kind of got pulled into the court cases by accident.
Okay.
I got into a case with a guy that sought me out, and I was helping him with his children and their conflict and helping them resolve some issues with emotional stressors of divorce. And that worked out well for me. And then that attorney told another attorney, and then it crossed the waters from Alabama to Georgia, and I did a case there that was kind of a high-profile case, and it worked out and had good results of being able to interact with the families and make some cohesiveness and resolve some problems. So then I kind of got another case and another case and another case, and I like it. I like helping, but parents argue and they push and pull kids so much, and I see so much traumatic experiences and emotional breakdown of children because sometimes parents, they love their kids, but sometimes they hate their ex more than they love their kids, it seems like. So I don't necessarily want to continue to do that because it's just fighting a battle. Sometimes that's a losing battle.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's kind of like you're giving your insight, but they already have a narrative stuck in their head about what they think.
That's so profound.
And
that's exactly it.
It's kind of like you are just there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm trying to navigate, but you're still stuck in these emotions.
You already have these in there. You already have
That's
what
exactly
you have
right.
in your
They
head.
have that. They each have their narrative.
They're not willing to
bend.
Right. And see, I think people who are going to come to you should be willing to bend.
Yeah.
So
and a
I
lot
can
of times they
understand
pull you into the triangle of their anger, and they want you to side with them. And my only focus is on this child sitting in the middle of the floor on my carpet in tears saying, I don't know who to choose. I don't know who to choose.
Especially being a woman, because, women always want the women to side.
Right.
You were a man, it would have been different. They probably wouldn't ask to be with you because they'd be like, you're a man, you don't understand.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I could see how you would want to draw away from that.
Yeah, a little bit. Because they weaponize you.
Sure. So in total, you've been helping people mentally for how long?
It's been about 30 years.
30
It's been about
years.
30 years. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
30, and you wouldn't want to do anything else?
No, I couldn't. I can't. I mean, I'm a therapist inside and out. You know what I mean? And I've learned a lot along the ways of how to have boundaries and how to keep myself healthy while I help make other people healthy. But when people come in my office and I help them find solutions or just make them feel a little bit better, I can't even begin to tell you the serotonin boost I get from seeing people develop.
Yeah, I feel that way too with this work that I'm doing, and I do a little bit of. I do, so I just don't do the podcast. I do other short videos that help people, that I feel like help people. And I feel the same way, especially when they send me personal DMs and they say, hey, this help, or whichever, doesn't happen all the time right now.
Right.
But it will happen, I know, as I continue to do this.
But your name is out there because I told you my office manager, Brittany said, have you seen this guy, Matthew Sanchez? And I was like, Matthew, like I know him.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah, I know him. We go way back. But and then she showed me some of your interviews, and I was just like, man, we were like, we're tearing up. Yeah.
So people like that, when people support me, but it's the people that send me DMs and the ones that stop me in public.
Right.
100%. That just
that's so meaningful.
Yeah, you can't make that stuff up. How I look at it is, I'm just trying to be obedient. I'm just being obedient to God's word. I'm not looking for fame.
Right.
I'm looking for impact.
That's right. Because it's a calling for you.
Exactly.
So that's right. I feel that way
Even
too.
from a young age. I remember Mama Thornton, and Mama Thornton's probably, because we're going to send this to her. We're going to watch it. Mama Thornton used to allow me to talk to the students.
She did.
In the classroom. When everybody else was at PE or electives, she would say, hey, come sit with me. Come. Right. She was talking to the child with the behavior problems.
Yes.
Come meet me in my classroom at a certain time. And then she would have me in there and we would talk.
Yeah. She always gave you a platform because she knew you had that divine connection.
She did.
And I will say she always gave you a platform.
She did. And so it was moments like that built the gift. I just said, no, it's going to be all this. So what I'm saying is I resonate when you say this is more than just a job.
Right.
This is a lifestyle, a calling.
I have no choice. I want to and I have to.
I have. That's good because I feel it. When I'm not doing this work, I'm not well.
Right.
I'm not well.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is one of the reasons why I called you here today, because if people are watching this, then we are in the holiday season. And people are sad.
Right.
And I said to you on the phone, this holiday season can be very joyful. And it's very joyful. All the TV shows and the movies, they all got happy endings and all these things, right?
All the commercials.
Yeah, people are watching online. Everybody's taking their couple pictures and all these things. And everybody's happy. Yeah. But nobody's really feeling.
Right. Right.
And so for the ones who are, who are thinking about them?
Right.
What are we saying to them?
Yeah.
So I wanted to call somebody who knew what they were talking about to kind of help us navigate how do we handle our emotions during the holidays.
Right.
And one thing I've noticed is that there's a generation thing going on, meaning like my generation, we're so willing and open to be counseled, and I guess I can say, or to be healed, where there's an older generation that's not.
That's true.
And then nobody's thinking about the middle generation, right? Because they kind of got both. They want it, but then they're scared because their mom and dad has said, well, it stays in this house.
That's
stays in this house.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a very good way to put it.
Tell me, what do you think is the main problem in terms of how we think when we're sad that causes us to stay stuck in this state?
I think that what happens in the holiday season is we know we're supposed to be really happy. It's supposed to be a really joyous time. And sometimes we get lost in, the reverence of, the meaning of Christmas, Christ being born, and that jubilant, the process of that beautiful ideology. So we get lost in that, and then we get caught up in the commercial part of the holiday where it's gifts and families are getting together and everybody's eating and laughing and having a good time. And we see that, like you said, in movies.
Yeah.
Of course, we see it commercial after commercial with gift giving. And oftentimes I cringe a little bit when all those commercials are coming on with the little kids getting toys, because I think about the kids that are in places where they're not getting toys and when they're not receiving that type of thing. So you have that kind of a little bit of cloud. And then you have people who, like, you've lost loved ones, you've lost the memories, and you have grief. And the holiday season brings all of that to the forefront, and I can relate it to you, Matthew, by telling you, like, I remember, like, with my mother used to love Christmas. Decorations, right after Thanksgiving, she baked from scratch. All her food was from scratch. Cooking in the house, I would sneak into the kitchen at 1:00 in the morning to eat some of her collard greens without her knowing it. All those
like me.
wonderful things. And then, when she passed away, it was like that tradition just kind of had a halt, and you find yourself trying to, like, how do I live up to that? How can I recreate that? And you can't. So you have to get to a point where you know that you can create new traditions.
Well, why does our brain do that? Why do we automatically go to, well, I've got to recreate this? Why doesn't it go to other scenarios? Why does our brain go instantly to?
That's a good question. Because as children, we're the product of what we grow up through. And so year after year, having a certain type of tradition and formality, it's ingrained in you. And in your mind, you think this is the way it's supposed to be, because this is what it's always been like. So to give you an example, year after year, even until just recently, going to go buy stuff for Christmas to make dinner. And I go through an aisle, and people may be able to relate to this. And as I'm going through the aisle, I start to tear up. And I'm like, why am I about to cry? And, because I'm buying Thanksgiving products, stuff to make. Well, I'm not baking it from scratch like my mom. I'm buying some cakes that are already produced in this grocery store. And it's already a, ganache cake. I'll just, my mom could make that from scratch. And then we start to compare ourselves to what they could do for us and what was done before and what we fall short of. And then we realize how much we miss it, And so I think I found myself every year, it's like, oh man, I'm off today and I got to go buy these things to get ready for my own kids to come over, but I don't measure up. And then I long for that past. We long for the past, then we long for the people.
Yeah.
Then we go into a cycle of feeling depressed.
So is it that we're scared of vulnerability? Is that because that's what that sounds like? You like, if that was me in the grocery store, my question. Let's say if I was with you in the grocery store and I saw that as a friend, I would ask you, well, how much permission do you give yourself to be vulnerable in that? Why does it just kind of come up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is vulnerability? Is that the reason why somebody can go through a grocery store and just it instantly hit them, or we kind of stay stuck in this, we got to do this because it's tradition, and then we kind of set ourselves for failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of both. You're right. It's like, it's a tradition, and I should live up to that same tradition. As the maternal part now, the maternal piece to take over, I should be able to do all these things, and that's not realistic because we're different from the people that came before us. We take some of that with us, but we are not them. And so we have to form new traditions. And then there is a sense of vulnerability, because then you start thinking like, well, who am I in this? Like, how do I create my own sense of identity in this spirit of Christmas?
Yeah.
So there is a sense of vulnerability. And I think to get healthy is when you say, I can take from the past and I can put some of that in the present, and I can develop a new future of how I want things to be. But it takes some time to process that sometimes.
Yeah. You talked about grief. Let's say the scenario is my wife died 10 years ago, but I still feel this same pain in my heart, that as if it was yesterday that she passed. Yeah. What are you saying to that person, and how are you walking them through that during the holiday season where it's supposed to be family, environment, all these things.
You know, grief is a thing, and, you know, Matthew, you can't put a time on it. Some people can go through the grieving process in a few years. Some people it takes years and years. It just depends on that person. And I think it goes back to, again, when you can get to a place, and it's hard, but where you love that person and you can cherish those times and those moments. But as people, we have to take those times and cherish those moments to a place where we can reflect and be happy that we had that time. What happens with grief sometimes with people is they won't let go. They won't let go. And they stay stuck in that neutral place where they still feel sad and they still feel, but that person's gone on to the light. And I think even with my husband, who just recently lost his mom.
Right.
Which is it doesn't make it easier, but it is a natural progression typically to lose a parent first. But no grief is easy. But as I was telling him and trying to help him through that and other people with grief, when they leave and they go to that light and they're at peace and they're in such a joyous place, sometimes we don't let them have that complete joy and peace and light because we pull them back down when we feel so overwhelmed by them having left. You know, and somebody said, I read something that said, we are the selfish ones because we want them here with us, you know, but they've gone to their glory, but we still, we're laden with that grief of them not being here. And we have to stay in. What I try to do with my mom is I try to think about those happy times, those fun times, those amazing things that she did, and my dad too, so that I don't get overwhelmed with the loss, but I create a sense of spirit by remembering what their spirit was like when they were here.
Is that how you let go? Like, how do you?
Yeah. I think I have a friend, you know, that lost her mom, and like every holiday, every birthday, it's like you could just see the gloom over her and be like, what's wrong? Well, today's the day, you know, that my mom passed, or today's her birthday, or today. We have to celebrate them. We can't be laden with a dark cloud because it's their birthday or because they're not here at Christmas time, or we can't do that to their spirit. We have to be joyful about
we can't do what to the spirit? We can't
wear their spirit out with they're not here and I wish she was here.
Oh, you
and
mean that
never
support?
Be the same.
People support, like the person who's grieving. We can't, as a support, we can't just keep.
Yeah, well, I guess what I mean is like that person who's got the loss.
Okay.
Like say, for example, my friend, her mom passed away, and it was about 20 years ago. It doesn't matter how long it is, you're still going to miss them and grieve them.
Sure.
But you have to get to a point with the loss of someone where you're able to counteract that dark gloom with the joy of, I loved them. They were here. These are the things they showed me. These are the things they taught me. This was the light that they had, as opposed to they're not here. And I can't be happy. Because they want you to be happy.
So what you're saying is we got to redirect our thinking how they're no longer here.
100%.
So rather than think about the sadness, let's think about the times
100%.
that we had, like the memory we just shared when I went to your office.
Yes.
Right. So let's think about happy times that build connection and build love in the sense. Okay.
And create the history and the beauty of it. But so many times people stay stuck for years and years and years.
And the lost.
Yes. You know how like people used to say Elvis Presley never got over the loss of his mom? You hear that before. He never could get over it. I miss my mother too, more than anybody could ever imagine. But there's so many wonderful memories about her, and her spirit isn't here. So I can't be gloomy forever. I can't hold it heavy because I have to let her live through me.
I know you can't see what I'm smelling and you can't sense what I'm smelling, but what I'm telling you is that what my body's inhaling right now is clean air. Most air disinfection systems in high-risk places are outdated and ineffective. But the Solus X2 by Ventilux, oh baby, that's changing the game. Using advanced UVC LED technology, the Solus X2 destroys, I'm talking about fight it off, airborne viruses, bacteria, and mold in real time. This is why we here at MSW Production uses it. It doesn't need filters. It doesn't use harsh chemicals. It's compact, quiet, and safe for occupied spaces. It's continuously recycling clean, breathable air. The reason why we use it here at MSW Productions is because we have so many people coming in and out of the building. We would need to have something pushing out clean air to keep us healthy. It's not just a regular purifier. No. Don't play it short. It is the next level of protection. I'm telling you, you want to get this for your building, especially for hospitals. We got to redirect our minds about the loss.
Right.
When we're grieving.
Yes.
So rather than stay stuck in the loss and how they pass. You know, I actually knew Dr. Phil, which we both know Dr. Phil. I love Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
He was on the Oprah show one time, and he was talking about a lady. She was talking to a lady who had lost her son. And he said, if you think of your son who just left, then you'll never get over his death.
Right.
But if you think as your son who was your baby, who you loved, you nurtured, and God gave him you while he was here.
Right.
He died of an illness.
Yeah.
Then you'll be grateful that God chose you to be his mom.
Oof, that's so deep.
And you won't think about the loss, but you'll be grateful that, man, I got to experience such a
that
wonderful
made me tear
human
up.
being.
That is deep because that makes me, that is profound because it does make me feel like with both of my parents, my father who was, retired Air Force sergeant, medic, and my mom who was a wonderful homemaker. You're right. I feel privileged that they were able to raise me.
God loved me so much that he chose a mom like that.
Yeah.
He chose a dad. And
I think that's a good way to put it.
My aunt and uncle, he chose, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes
that's
sense.
True. A lot.
To love me.
Right.
Now, my aunt and uncle still living, praise the Lord. Like, thank you, Lord. But,
you're
and you think about the loss. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
And this whole thing is got to redirect what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, let's think about shame for a minute. Because I think what holds us, pull the mic closer to you if you're going to sit back.
Okay.
I think what holds us captive sometimes, especially in this season, because maybe I'm a dad who's not present in my children's life, or maybe I'm a mom who doesn't make enough and my kids won't have the best Christmas. So I always feel like you're shaming yourself for things. How do we navigate shame, not just particularly around this time, but just in our minds, and how do we conquer it? Or is it something we can conquer? Is shame something that we needs to be there to keep us conscious of some things?
Well, I think shame comes from what we think of how the world thinks about us, So to me, shame doesn't have to be concrete. I mean, it's most things, Matthew, are how we perceive them through our thinking.
Got it.
Our thought process, how we internalize and how we view the world. And more importantly, when you say shame, how do we think that the world views us? And I think when you grow in who you are, what the world thinks of you is not as important. So then shame is a lessened thing. It's not as important. And sometimes it takes through growing and takes going through some turbulent times sometimes to realize it doesn't really matter what people think about you, and therefore shame is not that significant.
Yeah, because you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about families who get together and everybody, it's a room with different personalities, different emotions.
That's right.
And I'm thinking about the person who's come back home, is gaining a little weight,
right?
And we're shaming them because of it,
right? And we do.
That's what I'm thinking.
Those
about.
External forces, those external things.
Yeah. How? What is that? How do we because it's easy to say that doesn't affect, it shouldn't affect us.
Right.
But based on your own opinion, like how do you navigate that when you live in a family that doesn't or not emotionally aware to pick up on cues? Not even about the fat shaming, but just, you know what I mean?
Things in general.
Because some people dread coming home for the holidays because of that. Because of, well, you can't let go of what I said to you last year or what happened last year. You know what I mean?
Right. When you come into a group like that and you come into a familial group, a lot of times there are things that are said, there are old resentments, there's historical things that people have not let go of. And then sometimes you mix that with alcohol, and then more things are done and more things are said, and then you have more negative memories. And I just think that this may seem a little harsh, but I think that you have to go where you feel you can thrive. And even though it's family, if you go into a situation and you can't thrive, and people are not aware of your feelings, and people don't care about your emotions and what their words say to you, sometimes you just can't go in those places.
Really?
I hate to say you don't have to put yourself in those circumstances.
Okay, that sounds like a boundary. And here's my thing. If I'm going to do a boundary like that, can I do that and somehow not feel lonely on the holidays? Because what if I create a boundary with my family like that and I'm by myself because my family is so toxic?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How, you see what I'm saying?
That's a good question. Yeah.
How is that realistic in a sense of I need them, and maybe there's a conversation that needs to be had with them.
Yeah.
But I won't let them talk to me any kind of way.
Right.
Because I need the connection with them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
How do you navigate that?
So if you know every year you meet your family for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and every year you go, there's that one family member or a couple family members that start degrading you about, I still don't have a job, or, you know,
still ain't married.
You've gained weight and you're not married. You know, Christmas is not really the time to say, hey, you guys, this is what you do to me and I don't like it, because you're going to get into an argument, you know, there at that time. What I suggest is, like, before you go, before the holidays, you start building a relationship where you can talk to some of those relatives that make you feel that way and start saying, you know, every year I come, you do this, you know, this is how it makes me feel, you know, before the holidays. Okay. You don't want to do it on the holiday, but if you reach out and they don't get it,
that's what I was just going to ask you. Yeah.
And they're stuck in their ways.
And they're stuck like, in their ways. Be tough or whatever. This is how it's always been.
Right. You can do a couple of things. You can either go and you can let it roll off, you know, the back of your neck and say, they don't know, they don't understand, and I'm not going to engage in that.
Right. I'm not going to make you wrong to make me right.
Right. But if you are that person and it creates anxiety for you and it starts to disturb your mental health, then sometimes, whether it's family or friends, you have to say, I can't engage. My boundary is that I'll send some pumpkin pie, but I'm not going to go.
Got it.
You know, I mean, like, sometimes you have to make a decision that's best for you.
Yeah. And what happens if you're in a people pleasing like person, right? Because what I find often, and this, honestly, I've seen this in some of my friend group, is that they would rather not have the tough conversation and suffer than have the tough conversation and hopefully be healed from it.
Yeah.
What is that? How do we navigate that? What does that mean though? Why are we scared in environments like this where it's family, the holiday season? Why are we scared? Or why are some people, and I won't say scared because maybe that's a little bit of pushy for some people. Yeah. But why do we hesitate to have hard conversations when it's damaging our mental health? Right.
So sometimes, honestly, it is we're the sum of our experiences as children. So
what's that mean? What's that mean?
So the things that happen to us as children, they accumulate, and when we become adults, we are the sum, the addition of those things that have happened to us as children. So, you know, we may not have been raised where you talk back to people. We may have been raised, you're seen and not heard.
Got it.
We may have been raised to where you respect your elders, or, you know, we may have been raised with those things. So then we're inhibited about saying how we really feel. And I think that there are people that don't like confrontation. So they'll consume everything negative that everybody else
Which
says.
is not healthy.
Which is not healthy at all. So, and sometimes it takes us years to realize that we don't have to consume what makes us unhealthy.
Got it.
You know, it's like when you were a child and your parents said, eat every single thing off your plate.
Right.
Even if you don't like it, you're going to eat it.
Right. Because the people in Africa starving. That was an African joke. Come on.
Yeah. But when you get older, you realize, like, I don't like black eyed peas. I don't have to eat that. Right. I'm not going to eat it.
Right.
But then some people say, well, you know, I was told I had to. Now I'm 50 and I still eat it, even though I don't like it.
And it's killing
because
you.
I was told. Yeah. So the thing is that you don't have to be a people pleaser. You don't have to participate
in that negative behavior.
You don't. And it doesn't matter who it is. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's somebody that's across the street from you. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend. It doesn't matter if it's your kin. It doesn't matter if it's your grandmother. It's not healthy for you.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to do it.
Yeah. And what are some ways to set up a conversation that looks like, for people who struggle with conflict, that looks healthy? Like, if I'm struggling with conflict and I got a problem with you, because every year we kind of come home for Christmas, you got something to say to me that's out the way. How do I approach you after the holiday? Because you said don't do it on the holiday.
I think it's before the holiday is the best way to do it.
Okay.
A couple of months before, you know, hey, I'm going to be coming to, you know, Sarasota, and, you know, I love coming to see you all, but there's something that bothers me when I come. You often say this or you say that, or you ask me about why I'm not married, and I've never said anything to you, but this is how it makes me feel. Now, if it's received, the person may say, oh, I didn't realize I was making you feel that way. I was just joking around. I won't do that anymore. Or the person might say, girl, get out of here with that. I'm like thinking about, you know, if you get that second message and you can see that the person clearly is not listening to how you feel, that person clearly doesn't want to go back 5 or 10 years before and the things they did to you and the things they said to you, the things they keep saying, if they clearly are not open-minded enough to listen and say, wow, I hurt my sister when I said that. I hurt my daughter when I did that.
If they're not willing to do that, then it's a boundary.
Yeah. And I 100% stand firm in saying, if they cannot listen to you and take that wall down to communicate with you, then move on.
Got it.
Move on.
Yeah, they're not good. You don't need them.
No,
you don't need them.
You don't.
Okay, I want to touch on this because we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you said that your husband unfortunately lost his mother. As a spouse, how do I support my wife or my husband who's grieving? Good question. What is that? How do I navigate that? Because I don't want to become their source of healing, because that's what God is for. Yeah, especially if you believe in God. But I want to support them, right? But not keep them stuck in it, right? So as a spouse, how do I navigate my husband or my wife grieving in this time of the holidays?
That's a really good question, and I hope my answer will help some people. So, especially for me, because I'm a therapist. So, you know, I have to be careful not to try to do therapy with my husband, but be his wife, you know? But no, at the same time, he needs somebody that he can talk to besides me. Because a person that's grieving, they don't want their significant other to see how much they're hurt, because now they're going to be grieving and they're worried about what you're thinking. So that person, like I tell my husband, I need you to get someone soon, and I need to help you find someone that you can really say how you feel. On the other side of that, I have to navigate with him. If he gets a little irritable, I have to know where it comes from, because it's not normal. Okay. If he's a little bit down, I can't say, and I've caught myself in the transition from therapist to wife saying, I don't want him to be sad, but of course he's going to be sad. So I have to say to him, be sad. It's okay. Grieve. Feel down. I'm not going to try to pull you out of that feeling that you need to go through. You know, I would hear them listening to music that was sad music, taking a shower, and I'd be like, I want to go in there and say, turn that music off and put something happy on. You don't need to be listening to that, but he does need to go through that, and you have to be patient. If you have a partner and someone you love that's grieving, you have to be patient. You have to say, if they walk through the door and they look down because they've had that long commute home to think about the loss, you have to be ready to receive them. You have to make it a pleasant place to be. You have to try to make them happy, but you also have to know when to pull back the song and dance because they may not feel like being happy. So
how do you know when to do that?
When if you're doing a tap dance and the shuffle off the buffalo and they're not laughing with you, you probably need to stop.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if you're doing stuff to make them laugh and joke around and they're not, you don't need to keep trying to get them to do that. You just
let
have to
them sit in it.
Yes, be in a place of acceptance.
It's so profound you say that because usually in the culture that we live in, we think it is our duty to get them out of that state.
Yes.
But what you're saying as a therapist is to keep them in that state. Don't let them
go through the motions.
On their own.
Right.
And is that because our brains will naturally heal itself, or
well,
how
you know
is
what?
that?
And that's a good question. Time, there's not a lot that will help with grief more so than time.
Okay.
And it's a cliche, but it's true.
Okay.
You have to go through the day-to-day process of the loss. And you have to go through the day-to-day process because you have to eventually get used to the fact and accept the fact that that person is no longer here. And then you have to use your mind and your thoughts to recreate what this new life without them looks like. You know?
That's that thing you were talking about earlier, how you got to change the way you think about it.
Yes, it's all about, life is about how we think and how we process the world around us. It's all about that. But as a spouse, you have to ride the wave with them. Ride the wave with them. You can try to keep them on the up wave, but when they're going down, just ride down the wave with them. Just keep doing that with them.
So don't counsel them, just be present with them.
Be present. Right.
Got it.
Be present.
Okay.
Roll with it.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, you got to roll with it.
Let's talk about belonging, because we did talk about this a few minutes ago too, where if like we all we're hardwired. Dr. Brene Brown talks about this. You know Dr. Brene Brown?
Yes.
Love her work. She's got good work.
Yes.
She talks about how we're hardwired for connection.
Right.
And when we don't get those things, we kind of become people that we don't really wish we become.
Right.
First of all, like, how do we belong in a family around the holiday season? Because this is where belonging is at its high.
Yes.
How do we belong in a family that doesn't, it's not like there for us? That makes sense?
Right.
How do we belong in a family that doesn't feel like we belong?
Right. Well, you know, that's a good question, because, you know, where all of that starts is when we are children, you know? And as children, we don't have a choice of whether we feel like we belong or not. I mean, if you're born into a family and it's not a nurturing family and there's not a lot of love, engagement and that type of thing, there's nothing you can do to change the atmosphere as a child. And that kind of transcends with you when you get into a relationship and then you have your own family.
Got it.
You can try to create that narrative that you lost, but a lot of times it's hard, because if you get a person who came from a very nurturing family and then you get a person who came from a non-nurturing family, then you have a little bit of a conflict on how do we create a nurturing family. And sometimes that's where counseling comes in, when people get to places where their relationship is disturbed. And what I always ask them is, how did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And when you find out those family dynamics, you can understand why there's sometimes a conflict when it comes to the sense of belonging and sense of nurturing and recreating the best and the healthiest relationship and familial relationship you can have in your household, but people don't often think about that. And so that's why it's a good question. People go back and forth and they have conflict because they don't understand the root causes of why they're in conflict.
Right, because they don't feel like they ultimately.
They may not, this person may not have felt like they belonged anywhere. And this person may be like, well, it's great. I had a great upbringing. I felt a sense of belonging.
Sure.
But then you have a person who doesn't. So now you're trying to bring two people together, have different worlds.
Different definitions of what they think belonging is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's pretty good. Okay. So we've talked about changing the traditions.
Yeah.
And how when we lose people, the traditions are not the same, but we can change them.
Right.
We talked about boundaries. We talked about what it looks like to have hard conversations, if that's something you can do.
Right.
Which you should do if somebody's being disrespectful.
Always let people know how you feel.
Right. And I think
whether they receive it or not.
I think it's interesting you said do it before the holidays. Which some people think they do it. No, I want to have it right now while it's fresh.
That's not a good idea.
And that's not good. Yeah.
Don't do it.
And then you talked about belonging and how we navigate that. Let's talk about loneliness for the last thing. Loneliness is, as you know, is probably, if we talk about everything we talked about, loneliness is probably the lid that screws the jar with all these things we've talked about.
Right.
What is your insight on loneliness, and how do we beat it?
Right.
Around this time in the holidays.
Especially around this time.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, no one wants to feel lonely, and that's a really deep, multifaceted question because there's so many reasons why people are lonely.
Yeah, so many.
You know what I mean?
Many.
It could be mental health. It could be a divorce.
Yeah.
It could be, I'm away in the military in a different place. It could be, there's just so many reasons why people feel lonely. I think the biggest foundation for me for loneliness would be your spirituality. Finding your source of spirituality, finding your prayer moment, finding your peace with God, and letting that fill your spirit. Letting that fill your spirit. And putting yourself in a place where there are people where you feel comfortable. Like sometimes in my practice, I will say, I don't try to be a preacher. People will say, "Are you a Christian counselor?" And I'll say, "No, but I'm a counselor that's a Christian." Because if you're a Christian counselor, you go to school specifically for that. So I'm a counselor that is a Christian.
Sure.
So I will say to them, "What is your spirituality like? Like, what is your hope like? Go to the Christmas concert at the church." Go walk into a church and hear the story of, Christ's birth. Go just find your place where there's a lot of people around.
Where there's connection.
Yeah.
Where connection lives. Going in
exactly.
where connection lives.
Yes. Yeah. And I did have one of my clients that was really feeling a sense of loneliness. And I told him, I said, just go to the church and be around people. Because if you're going to stay home, you're just going to create more loneliness. It's just going to make you comfortable in your uncomfortability.
Sure.
So get out. And he did. And it was awesome because he went and I said, did you go up in the balcony by yourself? Because there were so many people. He said, no, I actually went down into the front.
Wow.
And then I got tearful and people came over and they started talking to me. And that made me happy that he did that.
Wow.
Don't isolate. If you're lonely, worst thing you can do is isolate. Don't isolate.
Dr. Sanchez, I've had such a great time talking to you that we got to have you back. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation. And I pray and hope that somebody listens to this.
I hope so too.
And they can see a way out of whatever dark place they allowed themselves to be in.
Amen.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew, my little student from the past, for having me. That's grown up into a full-grown man.
Man, what a blessing. Thank you.
You're welcome, Matthew.